In the middle of Parshas Behaloschah, the Pesukim go Vayiv and say Aron, Moshe, Kumar Shem V'Yefutze V'Ach V'Yisum V'Senach V'Penacha. Yeah, and those two Pesukim are enclosed with an upside down nun, right? So Gemarah on Shabbos, Gemarah Kol Kisvei, Kuf Tazayin Amrav, discusses why is it closed in an upside down nun. So Gemarah brings out two sheets. So Machlokes Tanaim. Either the pshat is that it's such a choshev, these two psukim are so profound that they're considered a sefer by itself. And the Gemarah brings down a pasuk that that we think there's 7 chumashim to the Torah. There's really, we think there's 5 chumashim to the Torah. There's really 7 because Bamidbar, Sefer Bamidbar is cut up into 3. You have before Vayim Sayah, you have after Vayim Sayah, and you have those two psukim. That's one sheet. But the one that we're more familiar with is the one that Rashi brings down in Chumash. That these two psukim this is not the real place. The real place should have been in the beginning of Bamidbar when we discuss about the Nasias, when we discuss about how you should move. Although we do have the Chatzaisus over here. And the problem, and they will put here, between two things that Klal Yisrael did wrong, and that's called the Pranis. That's bad parts of Klal Yisrael. That's bad things that Klal Yisrael did, and therefore this is to soften it up a little bit. It shouldn't be so continuous. The Pranis. That's the two pshat. That's the pshat that Rashi means that. Now, and the Gemarah even says that I see the Parshas Behaloschah Mikan v'tikasubim kaima. In other words, that it's gonna Lasad Lavi. I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna be, but Lasad Lavi somehow this Pranis is gonna be bottled somehow, and all the Pranis are gonna be B'Teil. Mamela, this is somehow gonna revert back to its proper place. That's the question is, what are the two Pranis? What's the two Pranis? So afterwards it's very simple. The Psukim are Vayiyam K'Mesonim, that there was the Rashi says so is talking about the Erev Rav, the Erev Rav started complaining. And then after that there's a few more Psukim. That seems to be another thing, right? Another thing after the Mesonim, there was the Mesonim that were complaining, and then there was the Hasafsav Asher B'Kirbei Hisavu Taiva. They also started complaining about and they said Ve'ashuvu Vayibchu Gam B'nei Yisrael V'yamim B'yachalein Bosa. That's the right. So it seems like after the Yimtzay, it's very clear what the Pranis is. What's the Pranis before? So who asked the kasha? Gemarah asked the kasha. Like Gemarah, Pranis shniya maihi vayiyam k'mesonim. Pranis Rishayna. What's the Pranis Rishayna? Vayisu me'ar Hashem va'omer abchom v'abchanin shesarim me'achrei Hashem. Shesarim me'achrei Hashem. So now, what does it mean? What's the major Pranis of shesarim me'achrei Hashem? And that's the tumult in the Rishonim, and that's the big problem. So the Ramban and Tosfos, they say the Ramban brings down Rashi, and he says he brings down Rashi over here, and Rashi and Chumash doesn't. He just says and Rashi says go look over there, and the more Rashi doesn't explain which two pranis we're talking about. The Ramban and Tosfos go that we're talking about the famous of Medrash that they have in Medrash Yilam Teinu that says that Shesarim Me'achrei Hashem, since it says Vayisu Me'har Hashem, a lashon of Vayisu Me'har Hashem is mashma that they turned their back on Har Sinai. What was that? That they were famous Chazal that they were Berech and Beis HaSefer. When they left with a certain excitement, either because the learning itself was a problem, or the pshat is that they were afraid that they were going to have more mitzvahs. Somehow during Har Sinai there were still mitzvahs happening, and they were afraid that they were going to end up with more than 613, whatever it is that they left with Vayisu Me'ar Hashem. In the Vayisu itself there was a clear Paranius. There was a clear they didn't leave. They didn't leave Har Sinai with the right tachna, with the right harocha, and they left in a very, very wrong way, and that's the one pranis, and the other two. The problem with that pshat is good. What happens to the so we split up pranis rishayna and after that we stuck in 2 psukim to break up Pranis Rishon to Pranis Shniyah, right? We broke it up with Vayim Tzayarin and V'nichi Yoyma. And then after that we do the Messiah. But then there's another Pranis. There's another Pranis. The next Pranis is the Asafsaf, which comes right on the heels of the Messiah. So what happened to those 2 Pranis? Yeah, this is not my kasha. The Ramban in Chumash says, so the Ramban in Chumash, there's 3 Pranis in the world. There's 3 Pranis in a row. And when the Gemarah says Kedei Lahasim and Pranis Rishon, the Pranis Shniyah, the Gemarah means to say is like this. The Gemarah means to say Kedei Lahafsik bein, but we don't want to be machzik for Pranis. You don't want to have 3 in a row. So therefore, we broke up in between the first and the second. Why do we chop the first and the second? It's going to be shver. Let's be mafsik between the second and the third. The second and third are very clear Pranis. And why didn't and the Gemarah is a little bit sus, and the Gemarah says Kedei Lahasik ben Pranis Rishon Pranis Shniyah. It's really the problem is the problem of Hasik ben Pranis. That's the Rambam. There's a very famous Tosfos Yontif. The Tosfos Yontif says that has a different pshat. He has a Gevaldik pshat. He wants that he has a rayis. He wants to say that the Mesonim and the Asafsaf is one thing. That it was just the same complainers. The same Chaver had the same problems, and Rashi does bring down the Chumash that it was all the Erev Rav. So it was all complainers. It was all the same. Really the same. It was the same. The same group was troublemakers were making problems all along. First they did the Mesonim. And Vatishka Eish, there was Vatetza Eish, and Moshe Rabbeinu was Mispal. There was a fire that started burning, started killing people, and Moshe Rabbeinu was Mispal, and then Vasafsim Hashem Bekiru Esav V'Tayva Vayashuv. That he teaches the Vayashuv. They came back. That's how. So he counts this as one. Very Geshmak. Since the second one is since the Mesonim and the Asafsim is only one. So now it's good that if this is one, so the first one is so you only have to split up the first and the second because there is no second and third. That's the and he wants to bring a raya from the fact that the Gemarah asked first Pranis Shniyah Maihi, Vayikim Mesonim. Pranis Rishon Maihi. That's Vayisum Hashem. Why did you want to ask about the Pranis Rishon first? So he has a whole pshat that lefi him, it's better. It's a little dachuk, and also the kash is not so shver. I mean, the Seder of the Gemarah is very geshmak. The second Pranis is very clear. The Gemara says Pranis Rishniya Ma'hi Vayim Kusanim. Pranis Rishon. What's the Pranis Rishon? And there the Gemara has to say a chiddush of the Vayisum Me'ar Hashem. That's the. I just want to discuss Rashi Pshat. Rashi Pshat is the Shver Pshat. And this is the Pshat that the Ramban, Rashi in the Gemarah in Shabbos, and this is and Tosfos in Shabbos also discusses Rashi Pshat. Rashi was like this: Vayisum Hashem has nothing to do with He doesn't. The Gemarah doesn't say Ketenik Berechem Beis Sefer, and it's not going to Ketenik Berechem Beis Sefer. Rashi is like this. Vayisum Hashem, or Avam Rabcham Rabchini Shasaru Me'achri Hashem. So Rashi, B'soich Gimel Yom L'Mason Hisavu Ha'asafsuf Taiva L'Yisraim V'Labosa K'tei Limred B'Akadosh Baruch Hu. So what does that mean like this? Our psukim have first Vayisum Hashem, then we have the nuns, right? Then we have the Mesonim, and then come the Asafsuf, right? That's the psukim, right? So the Asafsuf is third. So Rashi Vayisum Hashem is going all the way on the end the Asafsuf, right? So there's a lot of Shverkeiten in Rashi, right? There's a lot of Shverkeiten in Rashi. I just want to discuss the couple of Shverkeiten in Rashi. First of all, the most obvious Shverkeiten in Rashi is that Asafsuf is later; it's not earlier, right? And also, even if the Asafsuf is earlier, that's the Ramban's kasha. The Ramban's kasha is that the Asafsuf is later. So the Ramban, maybe you'll say that Ein Muktum Mochel Bater, right? So the Ramban has no time for that, no react to say Ein Muktum Mochel Bater. Why? And Kipshuta, the Ramban's kasha is because if we're anyways editing the Torah Kaviyachol was, and we're putting in these psukim. So why don't we just put the psukim somewhere else? We edit it in the wrong place, and then we ask in kasha, and we put in the Vinucha. Right. But what's more shver in the Ramban, what's more shver in Rashi is that it says Vayisu Mehar Hashem, and Vayisu Mehar Hashem somehow means that it's going on a taiva that they already started, a taiva that they started already. So if that's the taiva that they already started, so let it go on the Messiah, which comes first. Yeah? Good? That's the so I just want to say like this. Rashi's bothered by the Rishonim kasha. That l'chura there's two pranisin, and they both come after these two psukim. None of them come before. So Ramban's eitzah was to say that there's three, and the problem is being machzir pranis. The Tesyonta's eitzah was to say that the last two is really one. Rashi doesn't want to go with either one of those eitzahs, so he wants to say that there's only two pranisin, and they both come after, and one is the Messianim and one is the Asafsaf. So what's the eitzahs of Rashi? So Rashi like this. Later, first it says Vayia Am Ki Messianim, and they started right now doing Messianim. Later on it says V'Asafsaf Asher B'Kirbu His Avu Taiva. They already had the Taiva before. Once you could say His Avu Taiva, so now already we could say that the His Avu Taiva is going back on earlier. If the His Avu Taiva is going back on freer, that's the Vayisu Mehar Hashem. So the Vayisu Mehar Hashem is going back on earlier. Is going back that they started already in their mind already. They started having the Taiva. What was the and the Torah doesn't fear ice to the His Avu Taiva until later on. What's going to be with the Ramban's kasha? What's going to be with the Ramban's kasha? The Ramban asks the kasha that the Asaf that it's Enkam Koima. No, Ramban, it's not an Enkam Koima. This is the Makim. It didn't blow up the Asaf until later. That's for sure. It didn't blow up until later. But when was the Hisavu start? In other words, like this. Like Rashi, everything's Keseda. Everything's Keseda. We have three incidents. We have the Vayisu Mehar Hashem. Then we have these psukim that we stuck in between. Then we have the Messianim. Then we have the Asafs. The Torah wants to split up not the Messianim and the Asafs, not the Messianim and the Asafs, because the root of the Messianim of the Asafs, of the second case happened much earlier. It was his Avu Taiva. In other words, so we have first the Vayisu Mehar Hashem, and that's when they already started his Avu Taiva. That's when they started working up this Taiva for the boss to make a problem. And so in between that and the Messianim, we had to start we stuck in the two psukim to lahafsik bein pranis lepranis. It happens to be that the Hasafsuf that had started earlier didn't blow up until later, but that's fine as long as we're going to split up these two pranis, in which the first pranis was the Hisavu Taiva and the second was the Messianim. So the Ramban's kasha of that the Hasafsuf comes later, and he says you have to say Emuk T'mocher and it's Ein Tam Ve'ein Reach. No, we're not saying Emuk T'mocher. We're saying that the Hisavu Taiva started earlier. And the other question of what happened to that if it says Vayisu Mehar Hashem, maybe it's going on the Messianim. The Torah is not going on the Messianim because Messianim happens where it says. It doesn't say Esavu. It's not talking in past tense. The Asas of Hashem B'Kibbutz, his Avu Taiva is going on a past tense that happened earlier. That was in the beginning. So Rashi sort of gains. He gains the fact that there's only two incidents here, and he also gains there's only two incidents, and he doesn't have to say that there's a Mukta Mukha Batir. The beginning was the Vayisu Mehar Hashem that they already started the Hisavu Taiva, and then right after that was the Messianim. The fact that the Taiva didn't blow up until later on, that's not the real Puranis that we have to split up in between the Messianim, and it comes out of shtickle, it comes out of Chiddush and I mean we noticed that the real root of the problem is what you have to deal with the real root of the problem. If the Taiva that started the Asafsuf, they were his Avu Taiva earlier, and it didn't become into a whole tumult until later on. We we don't care so much about how it when it developed into a problem. We're worried about the root. The root of the problem was originally that they were Esav Taiva, and it makes sense. So especially these two parshas, both the Mesenim and the Asaf of Rashi, both of them says they were Mavakshim Alila, meaning that they were looking negatively. They were looking they were not looking to be positive, and it didn't come out from they didn't have a justifiable grievance. It was just they were looking for taivas. They were looking for problems. They were looking to shter. So if they were looking to shter, so that seems to be that's the ikka problem is the mavakshim alila. So when were they mavakish alila? They were mavakish alila earlier. The vayisu me'Hashem. As soon as they were vayisu me'Hashem, that's one progress. Then comes the next one, the vayiyam kivasayin, and then. It didn't end up turning out. It didn't turn out into the Va'asaf Asher B'Kirei. I just want to say one more thing, one more knech. It'll come out now that the Torah by Asaf, the Torah doesn't really discuss that it came that they were looking for tinus. It doesn't say that they were looking for. It doesn't say anywhere that they were complaining. Rashi builds it up. Rashi says, "Miachilei bas." Their problem was Miachilei basa was going to give us meat. So Rashi says, "What do you mean Miachilei basa? Miachilei basa? They left Mitzrayim with tons and tons of meat, right? That's what Rashi says. So Rashi, right? V'chilei hayla basa v'alik farnema v'gam erev rav alei itam v'tzaynu bakar, right? What happened to them? That's what Rashi says. So Rashi ella shemavakshim alih. So the pasuk doesn't spell out they were mavakshim alila by the asafsuf. Before that, vayiyam kivasanim. It does say that, but now it's geshmak because Rashi says vayisum lehar Hashem they were already looking for problems. So the Torah spells out the two times that they were that of these two people that were looking for problems. The Torah does spell it out. The Torah spells it out vayisum lehar Hashem, which is going on. Which is the beginning of a long story that ended up being the Asafsuf, which only developed later. But the Vayisum Hashem was the root of the problem, and then it says Vayiyam Kivasayin, which is also which is Mavakshim Alila of the second case.